Hey there, YouTubers. Welcome to School of Tomorrow, which has always been an online school, at least the way I do it, right? Because this is the prototype. So it's not a big gear shift for me to keep doing it the way I've been doing it. But a lot of people, it's new for them to look to the internet for more of their schooling. They have to now. I'm signed up to teach some camps, kind of emergency camps, because so many parents are stuck now with the homeschool picture, even if that wasn't their preference. So, in that vein, I just want to talk about a couple things regarding what this channel specializes in, which I have to emphasize is very obscure and some would argue more literary because of the philosophical content and things that have nothing to do specifically with just math, right? Because it's always changing the subject, like I do here. I have, by the way, been brainwashing myself in statistics. I think I mentioned this was something I was going to be doing. Why that page went blank, I'm not sure. Let's load my history here. This is actually me sleeping through Khan Academy, but no disrespect there. I'm experimenting with picking up. I study when I'm awake too. Let's put it that way. We'll just see. So the goal in turning to physics, or excuse me, I keep saying physics when I mean statistics, but where does this rigid geometry kind of sculpted thing come in, right? Like, where is it that we transition in synergetics to something more like approximate and flexible and I would say uncertainty? Somehow there's something around about polyhedra that they're too sharp and too static to really be real, right? In some ways. And in the Bucky literature, just to round it out, there's this thing called the omnidirectional halo. And that's really everybody gets to be a saint in this picture. It's like your Heideggerian uh, self, right? It's your sphere of influence. You could call it your psychological existence. Model it as a sphere, and then think of the relevance and the irrelevance as important to you and not important to you. What you're tuned into, your frequency, your awareness of otherness, and sometimes this otherness comes to you in kind of a twilight zone. Now, I think given Fuller was tuned in to his culture, yes, there's resonance there with the television show because there's also brain TV. He used to conflate the artifact television with the brain, right? There's a tendency to make the brain be whatever is the hot new tech of the day, communications wise. I still like brain as a radio, but people are more into brain as a PC computer. When telephones were new, brains were telephone switchboards, and I think you can keep all those things, like keep the literature rich. Anyway, in that omnidirectional halo, there's the too small. It's almost like the Goldilocks zone, and we talk about that with planets too. But like, consider yourself is like Alice in Wonderland or Goldilocks, and too hot, too cold with the porridge. Your semantic space is your verbal glue, your porridge, or whatever, how you think, your cereal brained. I could get insulting here, it sounds like, but I'm just saying, mush for brains, right? Goldilocks has a sweet spot where at least it's coherent to her. Let's say it doesn't matter if it's coherent to me. We've never met. We're not trying to solve the same problems. I've never had exactly the problem that Goldilocks faces with the bears and the porridge and all that, but I respect that she's a decision making organism. And, she has algorithmic understanding, as at least, right? Even if we don't give her credit for much self awareness, right? I'm not saying she's a worm or anything, but I'm thinking of myself more that way, as incoherent and so forth, but getting along somehow. And that would be my, you could say, sphere. And then there's the twilight zone of too fast, too slow, too hot, too cold, too this, too that, where I don't tune that in and I don't make it part of my model because I'm not ready to. And that's where statistics comes in. Or then I do, something flips. And also, Life at the Edge of Chaos, that book, there was a wonderful insight into how chaos as we know it today, mathematically, we didn't have dynamical systems a la Ralph Abraham until recently, right? And so these writers like Bucky Fuller did not have a full Santa Fe Institute sort of chaos to play with, but I do. And so I want to say where statistics comes in to geometry here, which seems too rigid and inflexible, is through chaos. But that's a very, you could say, choreographed and not undisciplined unfolding of developments. In other words, to say chaotic does not mean completely free of all mathematics. It's more like mathematics contains recipes for chaos, you could say, which it used to be considered that it was sort of, it was determinism, uber alles. There was this sort of engineering pride that we knew the natural laws and things. The determinism of it all was to many spirits comforting. But with the evolution of our understanding and our statistical understanding, our reliance on approximation and continual fine tuning, and that's important, continual fine tuning, that's where chaos enters our lives in, I would say, how it's supposed to, right? I mean, how would we want it any other way, I guess I could ask. Surprise has to be in life. That's another way to put it, I guess. So we can't, in the fuller literature, we get mantras like only the impossible happens. And we're all familiar with impossible stories, but when you look at statistics, it's really more a way to let the extraordinary through. It's like it won't be significant, don't worry. So it's like, yeah, you can have exceptions. It's just not an exception that, yeah, it's an exception that proves the rule. That's what we say, isn't it? How do we know of rules but through their exceptions? I guess you could say, sounds like Wittgenstein, right? We're just looking at the grammar of these things. So to wind up, just for some, final check out what I've been working on thing, we're using the Python and quadrate coordinates infrastructure to develop animated GIFs and movies and things like that. It turns out the animated GIFs are pretty big, and look how long this one's taking to load, for example. It might help if I would close some other things. But I've also gone up to YouTube, and you can find my stuff up there. Look back around March 20th if you're interested. What I'm doing is generating, you could say, cartoons. And this would be a prelude to the full-fledged hypertune idea, which takes a lot. This you could say is a primitive hypertune, but the transitions are. It's not a huge network of. It's not a spaghetti ball at this point. It's just going in a circle, but there are overlapping things happening. The balls are coming and going. They pulse a bit as you get to the 180 degrees. This is actually the way it's coded. The camera swooping around something more than it is the thing. So the relativism is very obvious here. Anyway, I just double check if my Jupiter ever did get it together. Yeah, there it is on Jupyter Notebooks, showing very close to the metal in the sense that I code it here in this platform. The White House Coronavirus Task Force wrapping up its briefing just and show it here, and there's coronavirus coming back in. So I'll stop. I'll stop. I'm not going to do a lot on coronavirus on this channel because stop guy because everyone else is, right? I don't need to chime in too much on that, but of course there's statistics involved here and indeterminism and chaos, right? So we're all being surprised a lot. So that's happening. I don't have anything deeper to say in that regard. All right, talk to you very soon. Bye bye.